Well, if you were confused, you might as well be unconfused because we're definitely going to war. Suit up, guys! Suit up! Gotta start doing your push ups and your calisthenics. Grease up those ankles so you can slide them back in those combat boots because Peter Hegseth made a speech today and we're going to unpack it. We're going to unpack this War Department. We're going to unpack a few things tonight. I hope you guys had a great day. Hope you're not sleepy. We will give you guys some time to share this live. Welcome to the War Department, guys. I don't know. I'm not Cleo. I'm not Miss Cleo by no stretch of the imagination. But I saw this coming. I saw this coming a mile away, and it's inevitable. And I feel like share the live. Okay, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Share the live. If you're new to this channel, this is the most shadow banned channel on the planet. Let's start there. Okay. For me to have called this straight down the line, I know I got some people in the chat that's OGs. For some reason, some people are not shadow banned, and I got a whole another theory on that. But for me to have called this down the line, I just don't. I don't know, guys. I think the White House is very much tuned in. If they were smart, they'll unshadow ban my channel. Though I'm probably the only content creator that has consistently new people, new faces in the chat every show, and the numbers just do not move. I'm probably the only content creator. My sister has a number. I have a number. My admins have a number. It's all different numbers of people watching the show. It's weird. It's very weird. It's been like that since COVID. However, few things is happening. Mark Zuckerberg did give me the ability to start back making money on Facebook, which is interesting because he took that ability from me and during COVID just violated my freedom of speech, my right to protest. And I haven't been making any money on Facebook since like 2021, just out the blue this week. Zuki said, hey, Janice, hey, you can start back making money on Facebook. Lost wages, because my businesses are connected to Facebook, and when they shadow ban you, they also shadow ban your businesses. So, lost wages. That's what I'm thinking. Share the live, guys. Hey, click like. Hey, guys. Hey. Hey, I need, somebody said you called it long ago and did. And shout out to whoever told me to buy this Gatorade. Shout out to you. I taste the salt. It's really good. It's really good Gatorade. I'm bouncing off. I'm bouncing all off the walls right now. Hey guys, come on in. Hey, somebody said, damn, yeah, right. Come on in, guys. Hey, ready to learn. Hey, J Knox. Hey, how are you guys? Hey, Scotty. I need some military people in here. I know one of my admins is Army. One of my admins is, I think Omega Red is Air Force, if I'm not mistaken. Share the live, tweet the link, share the live wherever you are with a darkie, a Negro, a colored. We're gonna talk tonight about history. I have a question though for those of you with military experience. I have a question. What is the difference between a regular army and an army? Put it in the chat. I should incentivize this show because it's definitely going to be. Somebody said, love the hair. Yeah, Pete Hegseth went on live today in front of everybody and said, hey, all you with that weave in your hair, you got to take that out in order to be in America. No, I'm just kidding. But he did kind of, that speech in front of the generals today is very interesting. I'm going to see how that ties into history with this unpacking that we're about to do tonight. Peter called all those generals back, and it to me it was slightly disrespectful to do it that way. He told them if you fat, you gotta go. If you got facial hair, you gotta go. And all of you who came in under these woke military politics, military requirements, you gotta go. And he is the Secretary of Defense. Okay. And Peter Hegseth, who graduated high school in 1998. We gotta put some context to this shit. Peter graduated, so his profile say he looks much older than 45 to me. But his profile says that he graduated high school. Can y'all hear me good? 1998. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry. What's the last thing y'all heard me say? Because I done said a lot. My bad, y'all. I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, now I'm getting text messages that you can't hear. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry. I touched the mic and muted myself. My bad. What was the last thing? What was the last thing y'all heard me say? I was about to say, I was telling y'all, yeah, everybody texting me now, talking about they can't hear. Share the live. You can hear me now. I asked you guys, 19, yes. He graduated high school in 1998. You didn't call all these OGs back, all these big wig people who actually had to fight in wars. Peter, he went to college, and there's no wrong way. This is not like to disparage how he got into the military, but he went to college, and so when he enlisted in the reserve, I think, he enlisted kind of like a high rank because he had a degree, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But you got to have big big balls to sit and call all these people back, knowing how you got into the military, and then start barking orders and tell them about how the military will be structured from now on. If there were any overweight generals in the audience today, I'm sure they were highly offended. If there were men with facial hair in the audience today, I'm sure they were highly offended. He said they will have to weigh in, and everybody up under them will have to weigh in twice a year. They will have to meet the height and weight requirements twice a year. I don't know whether people shrink, but they will have to meet the height and weight requirements twice a year. And here's the thing: you're gonna get rid of a lot of women like that for sure. Because men lose weight really quickly, but any woman that has picked up any kind of weight, monthly, we pick up weight monthly, we lose it monthly also. But this hormone issue, we bleed. But anyway, if you don't make that weigh in twice a year, Peter basically said, "You're thank you for your service. If you don't want to get rid of your facial hair," Peter said, "either join the special forces or goodbye." And a lot of people were speculating that that was targeting black men, and which is unfortunate, and I hope not. However, you do have a lot of black men. Continue to share the live, guys. Share the live. We need some people in here. We don't get prepared for shit until it's too late. We're not gonna get prepared for shit until it's way too late. Way too late. Okay? Just like niggas died of COVID. They didn't get the memo. Way too late. Way too late. Anyway, it's unfortunate because there is a growing population on TikTok of young black boys just so excited to be in the military, and they're sharing their journeys, and they got a whole section of TikTok. It people are calling it, I guess it's under like the YN Mil Talk hashtag, or YN military, whatever. But you just see these young black boys, they're in the Air Force, they're filming themselves. How they're doing this, I have no clue. They're filming themselves jumping out of parachutes. They're in the army. They're marching up the street. They're leading the chants. And they got all these white boys doing their chants. And it's just so inspiring to see, the young black guys excited about fighting for their country. It's very inspiring. It makes you want to go out and, do something to better your country. And so with him saying that about the facial hair today, people are speculating that it's targeting black men. Now, my thing with the facial hair is, the Chinese and foreign militaries, they don't have facial hair. I don't know who came up with that. If a man naturally grows facial hair, what the fuck does that have to do with his ability to fight? Nothing. And it has nothing to do with it. That's why you're able to join special forces and keep your facial hair. I mean, I don't know what would be wrong with facial hair other than you look unfuckable without facial hair. No grown woman wants to see a grown man without facial hair. I don't know who needs to hear this tonight. Now, Peter got all his facial hair off of his face. However, he is already married. And just because you're married don't make you fuckable. Your wife might not even be fucking. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, another thing that was very interesting about what Peter said today was that they're going to relook at hazing, and people will be getting hit now. The thing with that, as you guys continue to share the live, if you hit some of these YNs, they're going to quit. See, these YNs are not going to do the military and get hit by whoever is barking orders to them for a Hellcat. Y'all don't pay military people enough money, for one. Now, if you're going to call all these generals back and not talk about no pay raise, not talk about an annual annuity, an increase in pension, like if you're not talk, I was expecting to hear that today. You didn't hear nothing about money. You call all these people back from their posts, which is very dangerous, especially being that this is America. This place needed to be guarded. And this has happened before in history, where a whole lot of people was called back for a meeting and everybody died. Every single person on here, everybody died. All the generals, all the big wigs, all of them. They was called back for a meeting and died. And so when and you know, you should have some historians in place, you know, for things like that. Oh, if you are you going to call out the generals back, you may want to run that by a historian to see in history what has happened when you make all these big wigs leave their base and come meet with you. They can get overtaken really quickly. They can get overtaken really quickly by a foreign government, very quickly. But what else did I hear that perked my ears? I think we had a National Guard issue with taking cities and making them into whatever this administration think that city should be. Yeah, somebody said they hear me just fine. Some of you are way too far back. You have to speed up. Okay. Some of y'all are on a delay, huge delay. Some of y'all are on a huge delay. Anyway, so I think there was a National Guard issue. And the reason why I asked you guys what's the difference between a regular army and the United States Army is the answer to this National Guard issue. Okay. Did nobody answer the fucking question for one? Do y'all not? That's what I said. Get some military people in here. It's gonna be too late. I'm telling you. We gotta unpack this. What is the difference between a regular army and the United States Army? What's the difference? Anybody? Does anybody know? Let's see. Military pay is based on rank and cost of living. That's fair enough. However, when you call all these people back, you probably need to be talking about some money. You probably don't need to be talking about y'all got to shave you got to shave your facial hair and you need to lose weight. Because we heard the entire speech. Okay, we saw him walk on the stage and walk off the stage. It was not like another private meeting. We were there for it. Like, we heard it. My brother from college said Guard is state controlled by the governors. Frat, what's you're Air Force? No, you're a Marine. Okay. So Guard is the state controlled by the governors. Scotty, who is, you NASA, so that could be Space Force. It's close. You NASA, but don't y'all do the same shit as the Space Force? He said the regular army is now. See, you Googled that. Okay, you go. That's fine. We'll go with your Google answer. The regular army is full-time active duty component of the U.S. Army, while the Army is an overreaching organization that also includes part-time Army Reserve and Army National Guard. Let me make this a little bit more practical, okay? The reason why there was a regular army is because there was these full-time people that never stopped being in the Army. There was no off season. Okay, I'll show you guys something for the non-believers or how this thing was fleshed out. Okay, the Selective Service Act of 1917 is actually what created the United States Army that we have today. Army of the United States, AUS. This is what created this Selective Service Act. Okay? Prior to then, now this is World War One. Okay? They were pulling in all kind of people, baby. Let me get your tie, your week. Of course, you had to, pass whatever test they had you do in order to join this new army. But you were able to be a permanent resident. Okay? A permanent resident is a foreign national. You were able to be a foreigner and be in the army. Now, as it related to the regular army, you cannot join the regular army. You could not join the full-time force of the army. Here is why this relates to us in a weird way. The Buffalo Soldiers were all under the regular army. That flag. The Buffalo Soldiers were under that flag. I've been on this Buffalo Soldiers kick for a while, just trying to pick through the pieces, and just that little bit alone is important. Now, what ended the War Department, because they both were under the War Department, but one was written in constitutionally, which was the regular army, written in constitutionally. You had to be a permanent citizen in order to be in that army. You were not going to be a foreign national. Do y'all remember a few shows back we discussed when the freedmen went to the White House and they asked for an army. They wanted to protect the people, the black landowners in the South. This was around 1867, 1868. They went to Congress and they said, well, we need to be able to protect the black landowners in the South from, KKK-like groups, foreigners coming in. They're unprotected. And basically they were turned down by the Senate. But an executive order was signed, which gave them about 3 or 4 regiments. So they were then written into law via an executive order. And just like that, you had Black Americans who had just lost everything via the Civil War, lost their land, whatever. That's a whole nother history lesson where all these tribes and nations, independent nations, were operating here. We only had a few states at the time after the Civil War. We were able to make more states because more people had lost their land, which made them nationless. Now you have the 14th Amendment, 1868, which all of these people who just lost their land, lost their nation, got to start over from scratch, they are now considered birthright citizens because they have nowhere to go. They're from America. They know no other place. And now they have a particular jurisdiction that everybody else don't have. They have a particular jurisdiction called a political jurisdiction. Now, if you go back into how the word politics, polis, is just a citizen, how this breaks down, then you will see why this stuff is worded like that. Now, I know your good president said, oh, birthright citizenships is babies of slaves. He said that to appease the white people who were listening, because it is going to be very difficult to let these white first generation, second generation, or whatever color they are, Asian, it's going to be very difficult to let them know that the only people that this particular amendment was discussing was Negroes, niggas, coloreds, darkies, American Indian, whatever you want to call us today. African American. It's going to be hard. That's a hard thing to hear. Okay. So now you have this group of men with a particular jurisdiction, a land based jurisdiction. And if I go through, I have a few army books here, including the Bible, including another book. And I was going to go over some of the um, regiments, but I think we should break this down in different shows because it's a lot. A lot. But the regiments that were created specifically for black men to fight in and defend the land, they were able to do that because they had political jurisdiction to do it. Okay. So they never took days off versus the army that we have today. It was a wartime army. So now you can get everybody to fight versus these guys. Now, these are the people with this particular jurisdiction that are the ones who are supposed to make the laws. Okay. They're supposed to make the laws. They're supposed to say how the land is governed because guess what? You cannot have a sovereign nation, which the United States is a sovereign nation just by way of the babies of slaves alone. You need a permanent citizen. You can look this up. You don't believe me. You need a group of permanent citizens in order to have a sovereign nation. So when you hear your president say, we're sovereign nation, it's because of that 14th Amendment. You had to make the nation sovereign by putting that amendment on the book. Prior to that, prior to you taking all the land, taking all the black people's properties, taking their nations, renaming them, regrouping them, moving them around, killing them, Devil's Punch Bowl, Battle of Fort Pillow, all of these battles that decimated lots of our family members, they were sovereign already. So for this new United States that we have, whereas right now we only have 13 or 14 states at this point, how do we make this 50 and how do we become sovereign? Get a group of those nationless indigenous people, write them into the Constitution to validate us being sovereign. Are y'all following? Click like when you come in, share the live. Are you guys following? I don't want to go too fast. I don't want to be too woke. Somebody said they did this again. Are you guys following? Now, we had a military guy that just said the Guard is the state. That's right. And the regular army was federal. These guys had federal jurisdiction. These guys, they call both of those. And for the sake of this conversation, we're going to call all black men buffaloes. All of them. We're going to consider all of them buffalo soldiers. Okay? So now that we know how the buffalo soldiers were operating under this flag, what ended them? How did it end? The reason why we were finding all of those files, all of these Negro files, guys, the Freedmen Bureau files, land records, annuity records, pension records, all this Buffalo Soldier stuff. The reason why all of that is up under the War Department is because so are the Buffaloes. Now, the War Department ended in it as your Secretary of War affectionately said today, a woke regime came into place. Which was the Department of Defense. Now, the DOD made a lot of stuff happen. The DOD was, I'll say this, my speculations were we have not been protected since the War Department ended. Defense is one thing, but to have someone who's a permanent citizen, okay, not a permanent resident, I'm talking about a blood right to this landmass, someone who actually has the fortitude to fight because they have grandparents buried over here. Okay, they didn't just come through the border to seek asylum and join the army in order to gain permanent resident status, which is, misspoken as citizenship. It's not citizenship. Millions of people over here are not citizens. Millions. And I'm not talking about just the people who came in through the borders during the Biden administration. Millions of people aren't citizens. The people who came in on the German boats are not citizens. It's only a group of people who are targeted the most who are citizens, but via the Constitution, via the War Department, you cannot get rid of these people. You will no longer be a sovereign nation. You have to keep us around. That being said, the War Department, please click like in here, share the live. We should have at least 2,000 people in here right now. Somebody said, Queen, your mind is dangerous. Brilliant. Don't say that too loud. I don't want to be targeted, So here's how the War Department here's where it gets fishy. Okay. This is what ended the War Department. National Security Act of 1947. Please click like in here. Okay. For a short period of time, a very short period of time, it became the Department of Army. We're talking about the actual War Department now. Short period of time, it became the Department of Army. And I hate Wikipedia because anybody can edit these Wikipedia pages down. Okay. But then they ended the War Department and created the DOD. And then all branches merged up under the DOD. The funny part about all of this was why? What's the irony of the War Department ending and the Buffalo Soldiers ending as well? Let's keep going. Click like in here, share the live, okay? And you're banned, bitch. So, you see how easy it is to get banned? Somebody said you're already a target and you're banned and you're already banned. Come in under another page. You're welcome. So this is where it just keeps going, guys. Executive Order 9981, Desegregation of the Armed Forces, 1948. Okay? This is 1948. This is 1947. When the War Department ended, all the military was desegregated. The army was desegregated. Now, here is the thing about this. You had black regiments, infantry, cavalry, all of that. And then you had white ones. But only the black ones were desegregated. They didn't change. They didn't make any changes to any of the white people who were in the white people who were in the United States Army. Only the black men who were operating this regular army, and there were white men involved in the regular army as well. Most of them were of Irish heritage because they had been over here in America long as you probably will hear some Germans say, oh, we've been coming to America since 18 something something or 17 something something. They were coming in small trinkets, okay? There weren't a hell of a lot of Germans over here in America. However, there were a lot more Irish men over here, and the Germans could not stand the Irish during that period of time. So there were Irish men also, involved in the regular army in their own regiments. However, even with the desegregation of armed forces, their regiments were not dismantled. Only the niggas. Only the Negro colored darkies. And how do we know that? We know that by reading the files. And we also know that because a lot of these guys just so happen are still alive. This one guy right here, 102-year-old Tuskegee Airman, okay, he actually spoke about it in real time. He spoke about in real time all of the challenges that they faced. And he also spoke about how they were so tough on D-Day. I guess they flew like 15,000 sorties. It was a lot of them, and they were the only people from America that were fighting on D-Day. And I hear so many white guys talking about D-Day, but they keep leaving these black men out of the story as if they don't exist. And it's so interesting. It's only God that these airmen are still alive to see this go back to the Department of War and see them actually us pull out the files and see that they had a big part in this being desegregated. It was desegregated out of his mouth. The government desegregated. Somebody is saying they can't hear me. Can y'all hear me? Hold on. Y'all can hear me? Y'all can hear me, right? Somebody just texted me that they can't hear me. They may just be on a big delay. Can y'all hear me? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Real quickly. Let me keep going, okay? Because this is important. These elders are living a long life, and they're now seeing those of us, the young black generation, colored, darky, whatever y'all want to call us today, pull out the files and see what happened to them. He said out of his own mouth, they fought so well during the world wars that the United States government desegregated it based on that alone. 15,000 flights. And in his later life, he tried to be a commercial pilot. Of course, he was discriminated against. And in one of his articles, he was discussing, how another black man ended up being the first black commercial pilot because they were all pilots. After they, disbanded their regiment, he needed something to do. There's no longer a regular army where they work all the time. He wasn't just a wartime veteran. He was just a veteran. Okay. These veterans were getting annuities, pensions, and all kind of payments because they were the ones who had the jurisdiction to do it all the time. They were the ones who had military colleges. Okay. Now, he spoke about quite a few things, and we're going to look at another guy here in just a second. He spoke about quite a few things in his trip when he went to Paris. They just celebrated the Tuskegee Airmen. Oh, and he talked about being deployed to Japan in here somewhere. He was deployed to Japan somewhere in here, but something happened. But he has a really great story, and he is still alive today. Okay? And what a blessing. See, when you have men like this that's still alive to tell stories, like he said that the Tuskegee Airmen were the prelude to the Air Force. He said it out his own mouth. And he said it, and military generals backed him up. So there would be no Air Force today, how it operates today, had it not been for the airmen. But when those of us who aren't military hear stories about the Tuskegee Airmen, we don't know that they were the precursor to the Air Force. Who knew that? You didn't know. You just, there was a few red tails. There's 5 or 6 of them. They were flying. No, it's about 15,000 or more. And black people had military bases all over the place. They had their own balloon, and it was just them in this battalion. It's a balloon battalion. Let me see, where it is. Where is it? Where is it? Because we've talked about that before. Those balloons, because when white people came over here, they discovered helium, and black men had already been using helium in these balloons. And doing aerial surveillance is so much history surrounding the military. And if you can get this part right, then you may make a case for pension payments, for annuity payments, for reparations. Because when the Tuskegee Airmen, for the sake of these conversations, we're going to call all of them Buffaloes. For the sake of the Buffaloes, when the War Department was dismantled, when their regiments, infantries, cavalries were desegregated, then they also lost everything. And then you hear rumors of these black soldiers not getting the GI Bill. Well, it's because they no longer exist in the record. And then you have, I have this insignia book with all of the insignias on it. And you just have so many skips where you can see, like, okay, how did that number go from, and I don't know, really, I've been trying to look up how the numbering system go, but it's like, it's so many skips in the numbering system. It's like something is missing out of this history in America. And it's gross. And in order for us to get the history right for the youth, you got to get this part right. Because like we, speculated, Black history is American history. There's no other history outside of what we had. We had the culture, we had all of the inventions, we had the food, the recipes, and we had the army. We had our own military. And so, there are these just holes in the story that we're going to keep unpacking. And so now, with the War Department being put back in place, where does that leave us? Okay. Another interesting thing that I was able to verify in this book, this insignia book, was that there were actually, the Black Panthers was not just a little fringe group, but no, they were actually a tank battalion. Who knew that the Black Panthers were originally an all Black military group? Who knew that? Okay, you had the Air Force 99 Squadron and the 332nd Fighter Group, the 761st Black Panther Tank Battalion. Okay, General Patton Jr.'s Third Army. Okay, they mentioned General Patton from the stage today at the meeting. But who knew, this is just lost in history. And it is in the insignia book. They are here under Black Panther. And so you just erase these guys out of history, right? And then you change it to something else. You change it to, it was just a fringe group and they got killed fighting for Black American issues. Were they fighting for Black American issues, or were they fighting to get something else done? Were they fighting because they descended from this? Were some of those men a part of this 761st? Why? How did we miss this stuff? Now you Google Black Panther and it's a cartoon, but these men were running tanks. They were running. These men were running tanks. So it's just a lot of information, a lot of history that we must, for the sake of the youth coming after us, for the sake of generations to come, we must archive it properly. We must discuss it in the open. In case somebody think they want to disrespect us and go to war with those of us who are actual citizens, birthright. You know. It says the Army activated 3 colored divisions in 1941, 1942, the 2nd Cavalry Division of Fort Riley, Kansas, and on April 1st, 1941, the 93rd Infantry Division of Fort Hawkchua, Arizona, and on May 15th, 92nd Infantry Division, Fort McKillen, Alabama. Okay, civil rights leaders were encouraged, but their hopes soon dwindled when these 3 divisions were kept undergoing endless training while white divisions shipped out for the Pacific and European theaters. It wasn't until 1944 campaign year that President Franklin Roosevelt began pushing the backpedaling War Department to deploy black troops. And when they finally deployed these black troops, they fought so well that years after this, and you can see here, they were all called Buffalo Soldiers. Although they had their individual names like Black Panther, they were all grouped under the Buffalo Soldiers. And they fought so well. They were the only group that were deployed on D-Day. They fought so well that years later, just a few short years after this, National Security Act 1947, Executive Order 9981, desegregating the armed forces. That's crazy, okay? That to me says we need to correct this history. It's worth correcting. It's worth correcting. Okay? It's worth correcting. Somebody's being negative in the chat. Who needs to be blocked? Let me know. You said your dad is from Alabama? Yeah. Yeah, you say you looked them up. They called them tank. Yeah, they were a bit, but they're Black Panthers, and their insignia says Black Panther in the book as well. I got this from the Army store, the Army surplus store. Their insignia says Black Panther. They're listed in the Army records as Black Panther. It's just that when the information is disseminated to regular everyday people, what we knew as Black Panthers was very different. Now, even the Black Panther that we know is still very significant. I mean, they started food programs, they started, a lot of good things for the community. But were they fighting in the wars? Did they lose their pension when their battalion was decimated, desegregated? Why were only the Black guys desegregated? They lost everything. And then one of the regimental numbers, I don't know whether it was three something, 392. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. They actually gave one of the Buffalo Soldiers numbers to Nazis. And then the Nazis actually were able to use the GI Bill, but the Black guys were not. And they fought the entire time under that number. And so when you see all of the civil rights stuff and all of the rioting, What was that about now? What was it really about? Okay. Just like they put things like Antifa in a way today when we really have an issue and we're really trying to fight for reparations or whatever the case may be, fair pay, whatever. And they put a group in front to create a diversion. And now once the story is told, it's like it's this group's story. It's Martin Luther King. Shout out to Martin Luther King. Nothing wrong with Martin Luther King, you know. I'm just saying, what was the civil rights? What was that actually about? Now, what were there a group of people fighting for something else, and then another group came in and said we need to fight for civil rights? When in actuality, those guys were not fighting for civil rights. They were fighting to get the GI Bill, or they was fighting to get annuity payments. They were fighting because their pension records had cut off. And then, you know, when they were written into the regular army, not only were their annuity payments supposed to last forever, their wives and children got totally separate checks. Now, that could be happening today. I'm not totally sure. But these guys were getting pension and annuity payments, one payment a year for annuity payment, and pension payments every month according to the records. And so now, and that was written in as a lifetime, like for the rest of their lives. And so now you delete them and you don't talk about it. And now they finna start fighting to get their stuff back. But you got so many German soldiers over here now. You got fighting forces over here to fight them now. So now when they're trying to fight back, their stories are muted. And now you have people in place, KKK, in place to fight them. And so now you hear all these stories of these soldiers coming back from war, and they're facing discrimination. Their properties were stolen. During that era, there was military tribunals. One of the punishments was lynching. So you have all these random public lynchings of black men who look totally random. But when you start digging through the crates, it's like, okay, well, he was a military veteran. And we've heard these stories before, but just didn't put two and two together. Please click like in here. There was a story of a Buffalo soldier down in South Georgia, last name Mack. His name was Daniel Mack. Let's see if I find it real quick. Daniel Mack. Daniel Mack. Here we go. Daniel Mack, 372nd Infantry Regiment, fighting as a part of the 157th Infantry Division of the French Army called the Red Hand Division. His campaign, World War I. Okay. He was a black soldier, of course, as you can see. He was a Buffalo soldier. Okay. Junction City, Kansas. Okay. Actually, Camp Funston, Kansas is where his division was in 1917. Daniel Mack returned from the First World War and was hesitant to tolerate the Jim Crow South. During an April 5th, 1919 market day in Sylvester, Georgia, Mack was walking through a busy street and brushed against a white man. The white man was offended. You offended by a Buffalo soldier. The white man was offended that Mack did not show the proper amount of respect, and the two got into a scuffle. You are fighting with someone who just went out to fight for the country, a part of the regular army, a birthright citizen, and you're offended. Okay? Police came to the scene and promptly arrested Mack for assault. And here's what the stories that we always hear. During the trial, he was sentenced to 30 days in prison. A few days into his sentence, On April 14th, a white mob broke into the prison, took him out of the wilderness, and lynched him. He played dead. Because y'all forgot he was a Buffalo Soldier. He's one of the fiercest fighters on the planet. These guys were. You know, they were but you already had Nazis over here put in place to target these men, like Trump called them, babies of slaves, when they came back to their homeland. You had foreigners over here targeting them. You hear these stories all the time. No arrests were made. Okay. Shout out to the Mack family. I actually went to school with some Macks. He played dead so that his descendants could live today. Now, what that gave rise to was something called the Red Summer. Okay. That actually gave rise to the Red Summer, which I did see on here. Because this was during the Red Summer period. The period of the Red Summer. Now, I spoke about the Red Summer in Who Stole the Cookies, I think, part 1. But now that you're putting 2 and 2 together, okay, let's do a recap. Let's do a recap. During the Civil War, we had everything stripped away. But we had tough warriors still in place. So you have to do something, or they are going to off you if you don't write them into law. Okay. A lot of people are mistaken, thinking the Booth family is some kind of random white person. They put a character in place and made him white. The Booth family is very much black. Okay. They just went viral not too long ago, in fact, because someone went and visited the Booth family grave, and they black. They niggas just say it on the grave. Anyway, you got people getting off, whole presidents getting offed. Okay. Now you have to write these people back in because you done took their stuff and you done made them nationless. So now they get written back into the picture via the Constitution as birthright, because I dare you put them on here as some kind of foreign-born Africans. Okay? How dare you? So they put it right. In fact, in the Federalist Papers from the senators who were writing the actual amendment, they actually listed them. They actually was talking about them being wild Indians. What do we do with all these wild Indians? Okay. So they wrote them in as birthright citizens. It's okay. They call us whatever they want to call us today, but we know what the record states. So now you got all these birthright citizens. Now they got army regiments, infantries, cavalries, and all this stuff. They're Black Panthers. They're Buffalo Soldiers. Can't nobody beat them for real. They never lost any wars. When you hear Trump say we never lost any wars under the War Department, these are the soldiers that they're talking about. Okay? These are the ones. The black men invented underwater detonators. The black men invented machine guns. The black men invented submarines. The black men invented war shields, okay? Shields for war, okay? So we have vehicles outfitted with these shields, and we have portable war shields. We have all these inventions under this same group of men. Okay? Now that we're following it, we have an influx at the turn of the century, first Roosevelt, turn of the century, 1900. We have an influx of Nazis coming in already. The records, the naturalization records are on uslineage.com. We've been pulling them out. I've been pulling them out. I showed y'all a few of them on here one show. They're coming in, okay? And they're being put in place. Now we have a world war afoot. World War I. During World War I, there's a group of these men who get sent off. Okay? Then you have areas like Tulsa being bombed during the same era. A lot of people do not group Tulsa with the Tulsa bombing with World War I, but it was absolutely a part of World War I. In this insignia book, I actually folded a page down. It's something so interesting that I seen that I had never, ever heard of before. Where is my page? Because this is very important. In fact, I gotta put my screen. Let me show y'all this. Let me show y'all this real quick. A quartermaster regiment, 156. Y'all could Google this too. 156 command. And guess what? Guess what the insignia is? It's a black oil well over a bluebird spout on a yellow shield with a bluebird border. 156 Petroleum Intersectional Command. In the book. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's the second one down at the bottom. But you can also Google it because I just told you which one it was. Okay? The 156th Quartermaster Command. And we have discussed the quartermasters during World War II actually having a real estate branch. Okay? Because why would they even be able to have a real estate branch? Well, because when these men are coming home, they're getting targeted really bad. Really, really bad. They're getting targeted really bad. Their stuff is going missing. They're being lynched, which is, military punishment at that time. Publicly lynched. Their cities are being bombed. Their homeland is in disarray. And so then you hear them say things like they were fighting on two fronts, which I actually picked this book up from the Army store. The second front, which tells the story of how a lot of these men had to fight a whole different war when they came back home. Now, what do you do to erase all of this history? How do you erase all of this history and then give these people a whole nother story? You erase all this. Look at all these riots that happened. This was done to Black soldiers. Okay? Look at this. Look at all these wars, all these massacres. Okay? All these massacres, okay? Tulsa Race Massacre, they have their Rosewood, Perry Race, Oconee, Washington Race Riots, Chicago Race Riots, Elaine Massacre. I talked about Elaine Massacre, who stole the cookies. East St. Louis Riots, Chester's. It goes on and on and on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. Okay? This is what they were dealing with when they came back home. So now, in order to erase all of this, boom, you go National Security Act, because you got to get rid of the War Department all together. You desegregate it and drop their regiments off of the face of the earth. And for that alone, someone got to pay. Somebody got to pay. Somebody got to pay, because I tell you what, those of us who's been researching this, we have some kind of form of PTSD just from researching it. I don't know what form of PTSD it is, but for us to be seeing this stuff, I want y'all to hear this veteran. This veteran, his name is James Capers, Major James Capers. And if you have free time, some free time, I want y'all to go and watch this entire thing. It's on Sean Ryan's page. For those of you who don't know Sean Ryan, he's probably one of the most he's definitely the most profitable military platform here on the tube. He is a Navy SEAL. I think he was with SEAL Team 6. But as you can see, he has a very, very huge YouTube channel, and he's also CIA. He interviewed Major James Capers, and this interview, if you have ever fought in any military branch, you need to watch this interview. Even those of you like myself who have never fought, who's just interested in history, you need to watch this interview. This man slips in and out of PTSD throughout the interview, and it's so sad to watch. And it's even more sad to know that he was, discriminated against in this interview. Just to give you some of the cliff notes, he said he didn't know what segregation was until he got into the service. Okay, he's a Marine. He didn't know what it was until he got into the Marines. He said when he was on the train, it was all the guys, the white guys, the black guys together. And then once they got to the base, black guys over here, white guys over here. He said as a Black American, colored at the time, they were called Negroes, that it wasn't discrimination in the city where they was living now. But when he got into the Marine, that was his introduction. Now, Mr. Capers' interview is so good. For him to be his age, his memory is, soul gripping. Okay? So he depicted himself as basically the warrior that he was when he was young. He was able to tell the story of himself very well. Memory didn't slip, but what he was doing was slipping in and out of PTSD. He would say in this story stuff like the demons came home or the demons came back. Now, he was talking about how he was one of the first special forces in the Marine, I guess. I don't know whether they were called Raiders back then. I'm not totally sure. I know they're called Raiders now. But he was talking about his service, and he said not only was he killing everything walking, somebody sent people to kill him while he was deployed. And in here he tells Sean Ryan in the audience what he did to the people who was sent. And I'm just guessing that it was by the CIA, because he said the CIA was debriefing him. They knew what time his wife and his son was going to die. They was telling him, I guess he was deployed in Hawaii at the time. They were telling him to leave Hawaii because his wife and son was going to die at a certain time. His wife said she didn't want to leave, and they didn't leave. And so that was his first kind of, I guess that was them trying to scare him away. But his wife and his son actually ended up dying in the hospital, I think like 1 day or 2 days apart. And you're going to hear this story. When his wife and his son died, he said something along the lines like the demons came back. And he was talking about how he planned to kill all the doctors, whatever regiment that was under him in the Marines. He called the guys, and they were about to bomb a gas station in order to create a diversion for the police and the firefighters, and they were going to go in and kill all the people in the hospital, all the doctors in the hospital. This, I'll just let y'all hear a little bit of Mr. Capers.
Sort of give us some relief, and but they could fight. They had been in.
Alone.
Well, we were tired though. We've been fighting in those mountains, day and night, and I had my first experiences of killing a human being. Didn't really bother me. I didn't feel any real problem.
It didn't bother you?
Killing a human being. I had my first experiences with killing a human being.
Well, let's talk about that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was the first human you killed? How did that experience go?
In the mountains, up on top of the mountains, they had buildings up there, and they had their hideouts and things up there. So my job was to go up there and clear it out with my squad. And I hit a small building, and a couple of the guys tried to run out, and I shot and killed both of them. I didn't feel anything.
Nothing.
No remorse. And then when we were hit at night in the mountains, we fought them off. So never lost a battle. In 20 years of my experience in the Marine Corps, I was never defeated. No one ever defeated me.
What was it like for you to come home after rescuing Americans in Lebanon during that civil war? When's the first time you went back home to see your family?
Well, we were there for a 6-month cruise. And after we fought in Lebanon, they put us aboard ships and they sent us back. It took us 30 days to get home. And, it was enlightening. And then when we were told we were going home, we got home. And part of that was my high school sweetheart, which I had fallen madly in love with, Dottie Capris. We were married 50 years, still love her today. Never remarried.
Y'all, this is I'm telling you, these guys were okay. So only how I could try to put it together as a person who actually looks at records, they had something to fight for. Okay, they had something to fight for. We have a group of Nazi descendants that just came and took everything, guys. They took everything. They take everything. Right now, I feel like the theaters that our soldiers are fighting, I feel like the powers that be or pseudo powers that be, they're possibly sitting back making these theaters up. They send our soldiers to fight these wars. They sit back and laugh and count the chips. They don't care about the PTSD of it all. Okay, because what are we fighting for? We lost everything. We lost everything. And then when they ended the War Department, what happened in the 1950? 1948, everything is gone. 1950, you got Henrietta Lacks. And now you got all these Tuskegee experiment. You actually have the fucking insignias in the book. All of the hospital insignias, I didn't even know it was up under the Army. Who knew that? The actual insignias is in the book, guys. You have all this human testing, human trial, all of this rumors of a regiment of military men being masturbated to death. All of this stuff after the War Department was gone. So when you talk about those of us who are reading the files, when we say, no, you need reparations for what happened to you. You have wealth. You had land, heirs property that was just ripped away. Flooded. Bombed. And now you see why. See, they took the warriors off the books, right? And so now when these men try to fight, they're no longer fighting as veterans. Now they're fighting as people who could be arrested. Okay? People who could be arrested. People who are now a domestic terrorist. A lot of this happened during the Eisenhower. We'll do a whole show on Eisenhower Roosevelt connection. Because Eisenhower was very much a German. In fact, where's my thing? I pulled something off of U.S. Lineage not long ago about Eisenhower when they were asking what did the Germans bring to the table. Eisenhower was the answer. The Germans said we have added to America some great things, and Eisenhower was one of those great things. And that's very interesting because Eisenhower they were able to hide their identity for a long time and just act as if they were just regular, true blue Americans with the same fight that we had. Meanwhile, they were setting up camps, making plans, had all kind of secret brigades that were authorized under the AUS, the Army of the United States, not the regular army. And then when they dismantled everything, they started merging together. Now we have the regular army merged with the American, the Army of the United States, and that was never supposed to be, because one group has to be a group of permanent citizens that has the jurisdiction in order to fight and protect the land. Now, at the beginning of the show, I asked you what was the difference between the regular army and the United States Army that we have today. And although they merged, you still may have some jurisdictional issues if attorneys are willing to look in it, or if they see fit to look in it and try to get reparations and restitution for the family of these men who lost everything. I have been helping people, find their heirs' property, especially those people whose family land ended up being on a military base. Some of which the bases are actually named after the family, and it's really strange. The family graveyards are still on the military base today, like my family graveyard is on a military base down in Fort Benning. It's weird, right? How could that happen? How could that be? Why are so many of my family members buried on the military base? So many people in the chat, same issue. So many other people that I've done their genealogy to try to find their land search, same issue. Why is that? Why are some people family graves underwater? Why is that? And see, these are people who we search for because we want to know everything about what makes us who we are. Maybe you were not the first soldier in your family. Maybe you were not the first inventor in your family. Maybe you weren't the first wordsmith in your family. Maybe you weren't the first musician. But if you have your protection leave and some foreigners come from Germany, okay, and take over, they can rewrite your story however they want to write it. And you will never be able to find said people. And that's the issue that we're having. Now, the Axis powers during the World Wars actually received reparations, and that has been very weird to me. That's a weird thing to unpack, okay? Not only did the Germans get reparations for the World Wars, the Japanese got reparations for the World Wars, and we were supposed to be fighting against them. So how were they then able to come into America, get reparations, and then the descendants, those of us who, this is our great-grandparents, this is my great-grandparents' generation, depending on how old you are. It could be your grandparents or your great-grandparents' generation. This is my great-grandparents' generation and my grandparents' generation fighting in these wars. Got nothing but our land taken. We're literally supposed to be, sitting high on a horse over here in our America. However, we will discuss all these things. And also you have the Bisbee riot. It's just so many riots that happen. This happened to the 10th Cavalry Buffalo soldiers. They were absolutely targeted and wiped out of history. And it's just up to us to pull the records back out and care enough to read them and care enough to put the stories together. It's up to us to put the story together. I want to do another show, and I'm going to go through that Army book behind me. It does talk about, it does discuss the regiments that were created in 1866. It discusses a lot of things in that book. However, if you can't get to an army, I'm glad they let me buy the book. I was shocked they let me buy the book. I don't know whether you guys know where, if you're near an army base or any kind of military base, a lot of times they have these stores outside the base. I'm an archivist and a historian, on the low, high key. So I like buying these stuff these things, of course, to just have them, because when you're learning history, you have to use different mediums in order to learn this stuff because it's so hidden. You never know what's tucked off in a book, a little book, flimsy book like this, or a whole army Bible. And the army got a Bible to justify murder. Got all the murderous verses pointed out in the Bible. And I just got this. I know for sure on one show about a few years ago, I said, look, the Bible is a war document, and then people didn't understand what I was saying. But even I was pulling out verses, selecting certain verses to say, hey, they killed us based on this. But hey, we don't want to make the show too long. We have a lot to go over. We're going to do a whole, because we kind of already been doing it. But we just make it a series. How about we just make it a series on the Buffalo Soldiers, since a lot of people aren't discussing it, and it ties into what's going on today. If the President of the United States cannot control the National Guard because governors do not want him to come in the states or the cities, then they're just going to put another force out, and they're going to call it, if they really want to make the War Department, which they've already signed the executive order to make it a War Department, then that has to be a regular army. Then that means you have to put military contracts, and you got to specifically get actual birthright citizens in order to do those contracts, in order to go in those cities freely. Because these soldiers was moving about freely in the regular army. That means you now have to separate the United States Army from whatever infantry regiments that you have, which you don't. They're saying that it's all combined. It's not all combined. You got rid of the regular army altogether. And the National Guard was totally different. Okay? Like one of the Marines said, it was always state. And now you will have to create a whole entirely another army. And I think that speech today was kind of the introduction to them saying, we are about to create another military force. It's going to be a land-based military force because we were never supposed to get rid of the land-based military force in the first place. And the moment that they do that, then you put your ancestors back on the table, because your ancestors was also a part of this land-based military force. And it just so happened when your ancestors' regiments got destroyed and the War Department that they were fighting under got dismantled, their land was flooded, bombed, taken under the threats of violence, so forth and so on. Any questions? Any questions? Somebody said salute to my fellow vets. Yeah, salute to all the vets in the chat. Somebody said you're gonna be a rich lady if you have the drive, ambition to see it all through. I accept that. Thank you. I accept that as a compliment. I agree with you on that one. Somebody said I'm on mute. Oh, you just far down the line, Miss Denise. You have to catch up with the rest of the chat. Vet here. Hey, R.S. Johnson. Shout out to the veterans in the chat. Did y'all like so for this series, I'm gonna need the veterans on this series. And if you're a veteran, you don't want nobody to know your full name, you can do something like this, R.S. Johnson. Or you come in under whole full fake name. It doesn't matter to me. As long as we get the conversation out and we're able to discuss it together, because we're unpacking it together. Those of us who are on U.S. lineage, like I tell people, I always want you to look for your family members, of course. However, when you get burnt out looking for your family members, switch to random searches. Okay, go look for something totally. It's all there. All the CIA, FBI, because unfortunately, with what happened to us, those of us who are indigenous to America, with what happened to us, we have to make sure that we look at all records. We can't just look at census records and say, oh, look, there's a name. If your granddad or great granddad was a general, he was likely targeted. If he was anything in the military like a killer, um, because again, these men were fighting for the safety of America. They were fighting people who they thought would come and do damage to their homeland. They were fighting, and they were never awarded. They were targeted afterwards because we had German people in power, like Eisenhower and Roosevelt. We had Germans in power that were able to bring their people on ships as indentured servants and refugees by the millions. Okay? By the millions. They were able to bring their people in by the millions, and these white women start crying rape any black man they saw, and that was very much a target. If they knew your granddaddy was a general, if they knew your granddaddy was the one that, invented something as it relates to the war, a war, he could have invented anything. He could have been the one that invented the shields for war. He could have been one of the components, one of the members of the crew that invented the machine gun. They gonna put a white woman around him, and that white woman gonna say she got raped, she got touched. Next thing you know, your tough warrior fighting granddaddy is lynched. And lucky for Daniel Mack, he was able to play dead. But when you get some of these, very nasty, soulless, racist German descendants, those who don't have one drop, they did damage to some of these men who were lynched. They didn't just lynch them and walked away. They lynched them and started burning them. The black men in the regular army, they did not have, the Buffalo Soldiers, they did not have a choice to say, hey, I'm going to retreat. I'm not going to be in the army. No, they were the force. There were no days off for the regular army. Okay. They were the fighting force. Okay. They were easily targeted. Easily targeted. Now you can see the story a little bit clearer. As we continue to unpack it, we can see a little bit clearer. So many white women got raped. So many black men got lynched. Like clockwork. As if it was a military working within the United States that wasn't from here. And it's sad. It's very sad. It's very sad. People were burned, and when you think about that, all of us may have PTSD. We just never know. We will become numb. We've become numb to a lot of this stuff, especially those of us who've been consistent with looking through the records and the pictures and the files, and we've become numb. I wanted to show y'all a group of pictures, just random pictures before I leave. This insignia right here, it is absolutely an insignia that matches what they have here, this cross, in this army book. And I think it also matches this this KKK plaque that they have up at West Point that we discussed back in like 2021. That KKK plaque that's up at West Point that they just refuse to remove. It all kind of ties into this, because how were the KKK able to show up so quickly? They didn't have cell phones. It's just like, a white woman got raped, and 1 hour later, here come the KKKs by the droves. It's like it was a military operation. It just happened too many times for it not to have been. That's why Tulsa was bombed. They said a little black boy brushed up against a little white girl in the elevator. Why would you bomb a whole city? Because a little black boy brushed up against somebody. It was a military operation, if you ask me. Just like flooding the cities is a military operation. So, I want to show y'all Major Capers, who actually they may as well make him a general and they may as well make him rich. That's what I think. When you have these old veterans who actually fought for this country, fought their enemies, make them rich. Give them $6 million. Give them, you know, give him as much money as his heart desires. Make him rich. That's very easy to do. We have enough money. You fought us off our land. You took the oil wells. You took the oil wells and you got an actual insignia. So you can't say you didn't do it. We just wasn't paying attention to it. You took the oil wells. It was a whole brigade of people just for the oil wells alone. You know how many times I have spoken about oil on this channel? It wasn't until I went and spent my good money on these books until I said, oh, they had a whole patch, a shoulder patch. Wild. This is Mr. Capers, Major Capers, when he was a young Marine. This is Major Capers when he was a young Marine. And of course, you know, when they in service, they definitely have their beards shaved. We don't want to see no shaved beards outside of you in service, okay? They need to make Major Capers a general. I don't know what the protocol is, okay? And give him at least $20 million just for the hell of it. They need to give it to him. They need to give, and I'm gonna show y'all somebody else too. Let me not leave this live without showing y'all this. And I'll show y'all some more pictures here in a minute. Let me show y'all this. Mr. General Thompson. Can I find him real quick? There was this guy. I know I say the video because what he said was very good. What he said was very good to my soul. Coldest black man in military histories. I don't think that's him. Marines a Montfort Point. Let me see, where is he? James. Is this James Thompson? Yep, James Thompson.
Now, during this limited time, never go.
Let me show y'all this because this is gonna warm y'all heart. What he's about to say, and I'm gonna rewind it all the way to the end just so you can hear it. Hold on.
Good in your job. When you're in combat, you become good in your job or dead in your job. You pay attention, you listen to your NCOs and your squad leaders, and you do what you're told to do. When you go in the attack, you don't take no prisoners. You don't have time to take prisoners. You killing everything in the front of you.
These man, them old black men, these buffalo. So I'm telling you, we got to look into this. They was not talking about refugees come over, bring your tide and truth. No, they was killing everything in sight. They didn't want these people over here. If they had to go to war so that somebody who was a threat to America would not come over, they killing everything in sight. This is what I want y'all to hear though. I want y'all to also go. This is on the American Veteran Center's channel. James Thomas. Okay? James Thompson. And shout out to the Thompson family. I never met a Thompson that I did not like. Literally. I have not met not one Thompson that I just did not like. That's a good stock of people. Okay? Good stock of Negroes. American colors, darkies, whatever they want to call us today. The birthright citizens of America, the ones with the jurisdiction to operate this land, the ones with the heirs property over here. I'm gonna show y'all something. It's like all the way at the end. He says something that's just perfect.
I was close to being an alcoholic. She straightened me out. It's not black history.
Hold on, Mr. Thompson. Hold on, Thompson.
Number one, it's not black history. It's American history. And this is what they cover. We have to get the young generation to know. They have to know what the black troops did.
Thank you! Oh, we got to say it again, Mr. Thompson.
It's American
You got to say it
history.
again, Mr. Thompson.
know. So that's what I'm proud of.
What does it mean to have your story preserved for future generations?
Number one, it's not black history. It's American history. And this is what they cover. We have to get the young generation to know. They have to know what the black troops did.
Amen. He said it's important for his story to be preserved just because of what we're doing today. And that was 7 months ago, guys. We've been on these people ass and feet for a while now. So much so that other channels, white channels, are going pulling these old veterans out and interviewing, and I love it. That was from a real warrior. A man who saw it all. He probably saw his family land being stolen. He probably saw people being lynched. He probably saw it all, no telling. But when they went to war, they had all that on their dome. When they went to war, they had all of that in their memory, locked. So you're not coming to America. We're going to kill you right over here. We're going to kill. And I'm telling you guys, this is not for nobody to crash out. Because guess what happens when 1, 2, 10 people crash out? You know, you're dead. You don't crash out ever. Ever. You get the files. That's what you do. You get the files. You tell the story. You preserve the history and you pass it on. Now, those who can fight, you know, you better do it right. Because I do feel like, I'm not trying to rhyme, I do feel like the buffaloes need to be put back in place. And for the sake of these conversations, we will call all black soldiers buffaloes, no matter what, who you fight for. Don't forget, now we had men on the water during World War I. We had a fleet of ships. We had a crews of black men on the water during World War I. What happened to them? World War II, and we'll discuss this later on, so I will make the show so long. World War II, we had a fleet of just random ships given to Great Britain. Who did those random ships belong to? A whole fleet. Oh, they said no one was using this fleet. This fleet was authorized for World War I. That's not even how boats work. You got boats on the water today that's been on the water since the 30s, the 20s, the 40s. These boats don't get, this is steel. This ain't aluminum. These are steel boats. All they do, they re-outfit them and keep using them. You got tugboats that you can go see. Try to buy a tugboat. You're going to see tugboats from 1960, 1950 still in operation on the water today. What happened to those groups of men who were on the water during the World Wars? We know they were there. They invented underwater detonators. We know they were there. They invented the submarines. So please, don't tell me it wasn't them. I'm looking through the records. I see it. Don't tell me they weren't there. Tell me, how did Great Britain get that fleet of ships? Tell me, how did so many planes just be gifted to Germany during World War II? That's what I'd like to know. While everybody want to recreate the War Department, you got to bring all this shit back out. You got to bring it all out. Now that we're official, now that you've done called all the generals back and said, hey, whoop-de-doo. And let's bring all the history back out. Now, see, you got some people on here that know about the history part of it. See, we're not just doing the semantics, or where there's a War Department and cut your hair and you got to lose weight and all those baby hairs you women got. You got to brush those baby hairs. We don't fucking care about the looks. We care about how did you get here? How did you get over here? Wasn't there a time limit that was put on the refugees? Y'all weren't supposed to be over here forever, no way. Every Negro in the audience, and I have no problem with Pete Hegseth. I don't want no smoke, but he's what, first generation? Every Negro in the audience, or every white person that's mixed with Negro in that audience should have felt offended. Everybody. You got white people that's been over here that's mixing with our families for a while. I've been mixing with our families for a while. And you got white people over here that don't even believe in being mixed. They don't believe in mixing at all. They want their Aryan race to stay pure and white. Y'all was never supposed to be over here in the first place. You had a set limit of time to be over here. And if the War Department was never taken out the books, you would never be over here. Let's make that clear. And I would like for the people who are over the new War Department to make that part clear. If you need a historian, I am here. But I was talking about the War Department before they were. Let's also get that on the record. Okay? So, I think we're about to go to war. I'm not going to tell y'all my thoughts on who I think we're about to go to war with because I don't want to spoil it and I don't want to talk out of side of my neck because we may not be finna go to war, but I do feel it. I do feel like we are. And I got a good feeling about who we're about to go to war with. So, that's that. Thank you for the super chat. I got you. Whoa. We got some big face hunters in the building. Okay. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate you. And I got you. I literally just started back doing it. I started finding dead people today. Okay. So some of you who are my clients, y'all got my email. Just respond to the email. I done start pulling people out finding dead people today. I'm back on it. I'm back on my bully, especially now that it's the Department of War, baby. We need the records. We need to know who's who around this whole. But it's also important, y'all. I have to do this work too, so I can't do genealogy 100% of the time. I got a business to run. I got a lot of stuff. However, some of these men are in this Buffalo story because, again, for the sake of conversation, all black men were buffaloes. So if there's somebody that you can find, which it likely is, being that you have a lot of people have reached out to me to help them with genealogy, that means I have to do this research because I have to find these groups of men. It wasn't like the selective service, like you get selected. No, they were mandated. See, they were mandated. It don't matter that you own the oil field. It don't matter that you own a shoe shining business. It doesn't matter that you own a liquor store. It don't matter that you own a fruit farm. It doesn't matter that you own nurseries. It doesn't matter that you own a hospital. It doesn't matter that you're a college professor. You had to go. Where are these people? So that's just how easily we can be wiped out of history. Just like that. Thank you for the super chat, Chief Baspo. Said hello there, Queen Janice. Hello, Chief Baspo. Thank you for the super chat. Susu hit me with it. Okay. Susu said, go to war then. Make it a series. That we will do. Let's see. To read some of the comments. It's the Hello Plants. Respond directly back to the Hello Plants email that I sent out. Let's see. Hard to believe who would do the fighting. All money ain't good money, people. Here's the thing. You cannot tell a soldier that they can't fight. I'm looking at this War Department very closely because I'm interested in seeing, are they going to do this the right way, the historic way, or are they going to make up some new shit? Because you really have to, if you're going back to the Constitution, the stuff was never supposed to be taken off the books in the first place. The regular army is written into the Constitution. The regular army wasn't supposed to be simply grouped into another pile of shit where you got Nazis sitting here, with insignia in the official authorized shoulder sleeve insignia of the U.S. Army. You know, you was never supposed to even have regiments of Nazis, you know, and they called them Nazi sympathizers. No, they were fucking Nazis. And then they said they were fleeing from such turmoil over in Germany, but when they got over here in America, they was proud Germans. It's like, well, which is it? Because if you were so proud, you shouldn't have had to flee in the first place. You could have just stayed your ass over there. And this did not happen that long ago. God, this is the 50s, 40s. When they came in droves. So, you know, my parents was born in the 60s. They came over here on my grandparents. See, you was never supposed to leave if you was going to be that goddamn proud. You could have stayed over there. That's my whole thing. That's my whole thing. You could have stayed over there. So what happened was we had Germans that wiggled their way into office, brought their German scientists over, started doing experiments. We can do a whole show on experiments because it goes deeper than just a few Tuskegee airmen got the syphilis experiment. No. The Tuskegee Airmen and those military regiments were experimented on by German scientists. We need to lay this shit out like it really was. Nobody from Germany during no world wars should have ever came over here and experimented on nobody. Why did that even happen? And why is it locked into history? The Germans should have never been able to come over here and create books to go into our school system. McGraw-Hill, they should have never been able to do that. Man, when I was in school, we had the same McGraw-Hill books. Who knew they were made by Germans after the World Wars? We didn't know that. So they gave us what history they wanted us to have. They gave us whatever they wanted us to have. That should have never happened. We need to put context to this stuff. The people who were experimented on, the syphilis experiment, were military veterans. Now, when you put it like that, their families were never paid. They were never paid. No reparation, no restitution. However, the Axis powers, Japan, including Japan, came over here and got a payout. And then they sit there and say, wow, black people are so angry. Black people are so angry. Don't ask me. Don't tell me nothing. Don't tell me nothing. Talk about what the Germans came over here and did. Why did they do that to military veterans? Now that the War Department is back on the books, maybe they can address these issues. I'm glad they were listening to my YouTube channel. I don't know whether they prematurely turned it into the War Department because they were sitting here listening at this channel and reading the chat. I don't know. Or maybe there's something sinister going on, or maybe they're working for us on our behalf. I don't know, guys. I can't figure it out. All I know is they did call General Patton's name today. From the stage. No matter how the pictures look, he was a full nigga. Negro, colored, darky. No matter how the pictures look. Okay. Now that the War Department is back on the table, can we address some of these issues and get some restitution going? And I thank you. I thank you very kindly. Thank you, Robert, for the super chat. I appreciate it. You said, wait a minute, you said something. I missed it. He said, love and respect to you, sister. Thank you so. Oh, you got a military uniform. Are you in the Navy? Shout out to the Navy in the chat. Marcus in Navy too. Marcus in the chat. I don't know the Marcus in the chat, but shout out to you. I see you in your Navy uniform. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the super chat. And Quilla I says, I need genealogy myself. I've been researching. I'm from Mississippi, and it is super hard to find the files down here. Well, we pull from a myriad. If you're on U.S. lineage, I'm telling you, if you're on U.S. lineage and you see 9,000 search results, you see 800 search results, you see 80 search results, go through all of them. Go through all of them. Just sit there. When you get tired, close your laptop, keep the page up, close your laptop, and get back on top of it. Don't skip in a file and say, well, this can't be my ancestor. You just never know. Because if it's not your ancestor, it's tied into your ancestor some type of way. You just never know. You have to go through the files. You have to go through them. I go through lots of files. Okay. And we pull from so many sources. That's what I was telling you if you're on U.S. lineage. We pull from so many sources: military, FBI, CIA, anybody that got an online digital database, or anybody that's tied into the underground caves with the records, anybody that's tied into the National Archives. We are likely pulling the records. Sometimes you do have states that have private sources, but like, this first Marine Division, like I go through all these records, like 1966, Commanding General, First Marine Division. Like I'm gonna read all about this reconnaissance stuff. Maybe whether I understand it or not, I'm looking for something specifically within these documents. I'm looking for names. I'm looking for geolocations, and this was something that was classified. You see, it says declassified. So as records are declassified, we get them updated in our system monthly. So being on US lineage, really, it's more beneficial to get the yearly tier because shit is declassified and added monthly. And it's not just by us. Like I add files monthly, of course, but other sources update our system monthly as well. So, it's just better to get the yearly tier. And also because of what happened to our ancestors, again, we cannot just look at census records and be like, oh, we got the name, nah, it's too much other stuff happened. You got the name, but what's behind the name? Who was your ancestor? Who was this person? That's the important part. Who was this person? My dad had to let me know that, a lot of you don't know, I actually have the ability to sing opera or classical music. My dad had to let me know that I sung like someone in the family that died way before I was born, you know? But what if I thought I was the only one in this bloodline that could sing like this, that was just born with a gift? You know, I would be playing myself. You know, what if you invent things and you may think I'm the only one? I'm a first generation inventor. Yeah, you're saying that now because you're not going through the records. You're not going through the patents, design patents. We have all that on the site, all kind of patents, all kind of everything. And baby, if we don't have it, you can bet your bottom dollar I am looking for it to put on the site. I'm looking for the entire data set, not just one or two files. I source entire data sets. That's what I do. You know, that's what I do. Just so you can sit there and look. This is gonna take a patient. This is a research site. This is not ancestry.com, Fold 3 or any of that. We have all ancestry files. We have all of Fold 3 files plus more because we're showing military records on here that Fold 3 isn't showing, like these that are declassified. Fold 3 don't show records like that. Whatever they don't want you to see, you do not see it. And we need to see everything. We need the full, complete story, not just 20 niggas came from Africa in 1619 and boom, there you are. What we also know by researching that 1619 story in Virginia, it tells you one survived. Now, you didn't get millions of us out of one person. You also burnt a lot of files in 1890. Thousands of tribal records. You burned them. And we also have, after World War I, full white Nazis taking over full Indian tribes as if they was already over here, taking them by force. By force. Okay, so it is what it is. You redid the history. You reconstructed the history after World War II. There was another reconstruction period, just like after the Civil War, there was a reconstruction period. And it just so happened it's always us involved, our families. victims of these Reconstruction periods. It's always us. Why is that? Why, when we keep sourcing these records and pulling them out, why we're finding more Negro colored darky records than any other race of people? Even the National Archives tell you that. Even the Church of Latter-day Saints told you that. Even the people who run the salt caves, they said a lot of these are Black American records. Negroes, the ones they call Negroes, and a lot of those pension files that we have been looking for, annuity records, are in the salt caves, and we pull quite a few of those. Louisiana in the house. Shout out to Louisiana. Shout out to Louisiana. Oh, yeah, they're always watching. You said you need a hat that say War Department. What y'all want me to do? Because I can make the merch. Let me know. We the ones that came up with it, and they did not send me a check for it. So what's up? Because I just made a few little pieces for myself, but baby, it's up. It's up. I got me a big tee. I got me a bomber jacket with the War Department on the back. They don't have no merch. We the one got it. It was our ancestors in the War Department. So what they gonna do, What's up? I can make a whole line of this stuff. We the ones that know the history of it. I haven't heard them talk about the actual history of it yet. Let me know what y'all like. Y'all like it? It's the War Department. Welcome. Let's see. They came to help with Red Summer jump off. Exactly, veteran. They came to help Red. They the one that jumped it off. They're the ones. And don't forget, the National Guard. They're the ones that bombed Tulsa. They called them National Guards. That's why I asked y'all, what was the difference? What was the difference? Those weren't our men bombing our people, and we had some Indian wars in the 1800s, 1700s where we were fighting each other, but we was tricked to fight each other. When the turn of the century came around, we weren't fighting each other no more. We was fighting the enemies off. We was fighting them. We weren't fighting each other. So those weren't our men who bombed Tulsa. They were called the National Guard, not the regular army. So that's that. Do your website do adoption stories? What do you mean? Like you were adopted and you're looking for your family? Is that what you mean? If so, no. Even when I'm doing the genealogy, it's kind of hard to go that route. I don't have if I had a workforce, I could probably go that route, but it's just me with a feeling and a unction right now. So I don't really typically do the adoption side of things. I don't have the equipment to do DNA testing or none of that. And I probably would never do that on US Lineage. I'm just not into that DNA testing shit. I know, it's popular, it's very lucrative. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. The DNA tests are good for finding your actual family members. Because it shows the genetic markers that are closer related to yours. But there was so much trickery with this DNA can tell you which landmass you're from, and that trickery that I knew was trickery from the start, because I know how DNA tests work, it kind of turned me off. So although we have the platform, I don't think I would ever provide that service ever. I don't think I would ever provide that service. Came to use the manufacturing facilities to build industries. Again, whether your ancestors owned a small steel factory, it didn't matter. He had to go to war. Now, when he went off to war, what happened to his business if his wife could not run it, or he didn't have any children, any sons or anything? Was his business overtaken? Because again, when U.S. Steel was created, it was a conglomerate of steel companies. Who were these owners of these steel companies that became a part of this conglomerate? And then what's so fucked up about it, they said Kennedy was killed over the whole U.S. Steel deal when the Germans came in and took over U.S. Steel. And then as Trump was getting back in office, I think a Japanese company wanted to come in and buy U.S. Steel. I said, what a slap in the face. If they let that Chinese nice, and I think I talked about it on the show. I said, if they come in and let that damn Axis power Japanese come in and buy U.S. Steel, that'll be crazy. That'll be totally crazy. As a historian, to me, that'll be just so upsetting. The Japanese never said, hey, we know how the Black Americans were treated, the Negro colored darkies. Here's some free chopsticks. Bitch, nothing. Nothing. Nobody said nothing. They just kept repeating the story over and over again. Y'all were slaves. Y'all had no culture. Good night. The end. Nah, but what about all the Buffalo Soldiers that you would not have an Air Force today had it not been for them? And they're saying they're still alive. God, thank you. They are still alive in order to tell us these stories. See, it ain't just the big mouth descendants online talking about it. Nah, these elders are talking about it now too. First you scared the elders to talk. Then when the elders heard their descendants, the young ones talking about it, they said, all right, we finna pop out now. Then the elders start popping out. The elders like, it's time to pop out. It's time to pop out and show niggas. It wouldn't even be no Air Force without the work that we did. Y'all would have never even desegregated us had we not put in that work in Normandy. They was running balloons. Child, go back and look at it. Now when you see the battle, the D-Day battle, just keep the Buffalo Soldiers in mind because they won that battle. See, they won that battle. And don't give Eisenhower too much credit because Eisenhower, he was managing the Allied forces. I don't think he was managing the Buffaloes. The Buffaloes was managing themselves. Eisenhower's were sitting there managing everybody else. You was managing the foreign troops, the foreign brigades, the Allies. That's what you was managing. You weren't managing the Buffalo Soldier. And you're a German. And you're a German. So why would you manage the Negroes? Your whole goal was to get them out the way in the first place. They stayed alive. And guys, the story gets even more sinister as it relates to the Tuskegee Airmen, the Buffalo Soldiers who were running those flights. Because a few shows ago, I had pulled out some files and I was telling y'all how these files, they went to the FBI. I was looking for these names. And there was some flight logs or some military records that went to the FBI because this guy from Oklahoma was looking for his troops that were that had their base in base in Germany. And these men, they kept getting on these planes, carrying the bombs. And the planes were malfunctioning and the black men start parachuting out of the planes before they exploded. And they were able to make it back to base. And then when they made it back to base, the people who were there was like, wow, we can't believe you guys made it back. Like you niggas set them up to die. And then a group of men, black men, Buffalo Soldiers, boarded another plane and then they all died. And so I was looking for, okay, what happened to all the soldiers that never came home? You talk about a few of them, but it was a lot of them that were getting sabotaged. So that's how I know Eisenhower was not managing the Buffaloes. In fact, you was likely setting up theaters to have them off. And that's how you guys were able, years later, to end the Department of War altogether, end everything that they fought, every brigade that they fought in, infantry, cavalry, everything that they fought in, okay? Or slide it up under some other shit to hide it. And hide the story because you don't want people to know that you were complicit in a lot of these men dying. A lot of their lands being taken. A lot of the lynchings. You don't want people to know that you was complicit in that. That's sad. But I found those records of those men and it just matches what these elders are saying. It matches what these elders are saying. What we have been researching match exactly what these elders are saying. They were set up. the ones that made it home was never supposed to make it home. And I just pray that y'all ain't setting our guys up today, because that'll be bad. That'll be really bad. It's a theater for a reason. They had playwrights on the battlefield. We will talk about all that later. Anyway, I hope you all get some good rest. I know some of y'all got to work tomorrow. I hope you guys share this live with somebody. Yeah, the CCC. We talked about the CCC. That was under your boy, the New Deal, Franklin. That was under Roosevelt. Roosevelt also put Eisenhower in place. He was the one that put that German in place. So again, they trying to say, oh, the two Roosevelts were no kin or no relation. Yeah, somebody lying. You look like y'all both Germans to me. I ain't talking about just any kind of German. I'm talking about the kind of Germans that don't like blacks, colors, darkies. How you don't like somebody and you come over to their homeland and start targeting them? Like, I thought you like. Wait, what? You got to make it make sense. If you don't like me, you could just stay over there where you are. You don't have to go over here. You know that, right? Anyway, I love y'all. We should have had 2,000 people in here tonight. At least 2,000 to 5,000 people for this pop-up live. However, Roy, thank you for the super chat, Roy. Roy said, wait. Roy said, for a whole line of War Department. Gotcha. Say less. Say less. I got you. Say less. Say less. Say less. I got you. I got you. Yeah, please check out the Sean Ryan interview. If you are not on uslineage.com and you're looking for your people, make sure you go to the US, to go to the site. I'm telling you, go to the site. Go to the site, click on search records, and you'll be seeing everything. Okay. Well, you got to join first. Okay. You got to join. And then once you join, you'll be seeing everything that we see and we're able to discuss. And especially if you're a content creator, it's very beneficial because you can create tons of content using the files alone. And there are already content creators doing it. And I'm so proud of y'all. Like, get the story out, come hell or high water. It's the pride that is in the young generation. It's like they know they're from America now. Like, it's no cut on it, And for those of you who are on TikTok, y'all know it's a whole line of songs that's coming out too about being a Black American princess. They got a Black American princess song out. Just beautiful. 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 We're so back, baby. America is back, baby. Yes. Yes. Anyway, guys, I love y'all so much. I hope you enjoyed this live. I hope you will share it. We're going to unpack more of this conversation now that the War Department is back in place. Now that the War Department is back in place, you definitely got to pay for war crimes against your indigenous people that were turned into permanent citizens, birthright, airship citizens. Somebody got to pay. Somebody got to pay. Anyway, love you guys. Good night.